Hello everyone, Luke here. Hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about the duality of means of exchange for store of value. It's kind of like Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash, okay? And the two narratives that play off of each other. If you would like to see my other duality video on my health channel, where I talk about duality in regards to health, finances, politics, and healing yourself and things like that, you can check out that video here, okay? But this is obviously my crypto or like investment channel, so I will specifically be talking about store of value versus means of exchange. So there's two narratives, okay? So one's kind of like the Bitcoin narrative, okay? So we have store of value, and this is a very often Bitcoin maximalists, okay? So Bitcoin on this side, okay? So they talk about the most important monetary property of money is that it stores value. Okay, so it's not as important that it is. You can use it as cash. Privacy is not as important. Financialization is not as important. All these other properties of money are not as important. Then you have the Bitcoin Cash camp, which is a means of exchange. Okay. This is the BCH camp. Okay. Now I'm a huge fan of Bitcoin Cash. You guys probably know this because I make, pro Bitcoin Cash videos, okay? So the question is, which one truly is more valuable and important for your currency? Well, if we understand the concept of duality and the concept of balance in the universe, we understand that they're actually both equally important, I would argue, okay? So they're both equally important. Okay? So preferably you want something that's a store of value and a means of exchange. So you want something that's store of value like Bitcoin, which means it's preferably deflationary. It's limited in amount. It's not something like the dollar where the Federal Reserve could just print a bunch of it or anything like that. You want something that's auditable, okay? And you want something that's a means of exchange, which means that you can send it around the world with cheap fees. It's accepted everywhere. And, you can use it in your everyday life. Preferably you want something that does both of these things, okay? But we know that Bitcoin is designed as the Bitcoin core sort of developers of the community have chosen to make it a store of value. And we know that the Bitcoin Cash community developers are focused on making a means of exchange, okay? But the truth is that these are both important. Now, one reason I am a huge fan of Bitcoin Cash is because they're focusing on a means of exchange. And Bitcoin Cash obviously is a fork of Bitcoin, okay? So we know it's already a good store of value, right? It has the same code base as Bitcoin. So obviously it's going to be a good store of value, okay? Now you can make the argument it's more centralized because there's less hashing power behind it. It's not as, it's not as defensible against attacks, right? It's more able to be attacked because of lower hash power. You can argue there's less developers working on Bitcoin Cash, and so that's another attack vector that it's more susceptible to. There's less nodes that are more distributed on the Bitcoin Cash network, whereas Bitcoin Core has more distributed node architecture on the network, so it's more defensible versus attacks on the nodes. But besides that, everything being equal, Bitcoin Cash is a store of value like Bitcoin. Okay, so if Bitcoin Cash becomes more of a means of exchange, that can put it ahead of Bitcoin. Okay, because I'm not sure store of value is good enough for Bitcoin to dominate. Right now, I don't think Bitcoin is going anywhere, and I think it probably will continue to be a store of value, and it can be used as payments to a certain extent. Right, if you want to send $1 million, the fees between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash are obviously negligible. Right. Same thing with like $100,000. Bitcoin Cash is only a lot better if you're sending, I would say, less than $1,000, right? Because only under less than $1,000, if the fees for a Bitcoin right now are like about $2, and Bitcoin Cash is a penny, over like $1,000, that becomes negligible. Okay, so Bitcoin Cash only shines right now in like day-to-day purchases, like you're buying dinner or a cup of coffee or something like that, right? So let's talk about, but it's important that we understand something, okay? So let's talk about gold versus the dollar, okay? Gold versus the dollar. We could say that this is a store of value versus a means of exchange, right? Versus USD. Now, which one has a bigger market cap? Okay, if gold is storing value and it's not used as a means of exchange anymore, and USD is a means of exchange, but it's not really used for storing value, It's only really used to store value temporarily. Okay? Which one has a much bigger market cap? Well, the USD has a much bigger market cap. Okay? Because it's a much, much better means of exchange than gold. Okay? Much, much better means of exchange. It's accepted everywhere. Everyone wants dollars as opposed to their normal currency. And it does store value, at least temporarily, right? You don't want to hold dollars over the course of, 5-10 years. But if you hold dollars for a day or a week or a month, it's not that big of a deal, right? It might fluctuate 1%. And you're not really worried about that when you get your paycheck and you're paying for things in dollars, right? Now, long term, you don't want to hold the dollar for 30 years because of inflation. You want to hold basically anything else. But if you want to temporarily store your value, it's okay. Now, Bitcoin Cash stores value a lot better than USD because it's built on the Bitcoin code, okay? So we could say Bitcoin Cash is actually much better at storing value than USD. Now, the thing that USD has above Bitcoin Cash, obviously, is that it's way, way more accepted. USD, the US dollar, is the most accepted form of payment on planet Earth, okay? No matter, basically in every country, okay? And if you take up the whole Earth, most worldwide financial transactions are happening in the US dollar, okay? Whereas people are just buying gold to store it, okay? And so, but which has a bigger market cap? US dollar has a much bigger market cap than gold, okay? So if Bitcoin's just going to choose to be digital gold, something has to be the dollar. And whatever ends up being the dollar will probably end up being the new dollar, will end up being the dominant cryptocurrency, okay? Now, you can make the argument that Bitcoin can do it on second layers and stuff, but I'm just saying hypothetically, if Bitcoin does not scale and the fees get too high and it can't be used as a means of exchange very well, and if they settle on digital gold, something has to become the dollar. And if Bitcoin Cash can shine as the dollar, then I think Bitcoin Cash can actually become a bigger cryptocurrency than Bitcoin, especially if it does that while retaining its value much better than the US dollar ever could. Because remember, Bitcoin Cash is deflationary, just like Bitcoin, okay? And now Bitcoin can also, upgrade itself and maybe become a better means of exchange. But if Bitcoin Cash becomes a significantly better means of exchange than Bitcoin, like very, very significantly, if Bitcoin Cash can do 100x the transaction volume of Bitcoin, and it's accepted at 100x the places, and it's 100x easier to use, then we're talking in a scenario where Bitcoin Cash could actually start to shine and maybe start to play catch up with Bitcoin. So, and understand the duality of money. Store of value versus means of exchange. Neither one is more important than the other. Okay? If you study Austrian economics, like the old Austrian economic books, and you study economic law, nothing can be a store of value without a secondary use case. Okay, gold is only a store of value because it has secondary use cases. What are its secondary use cases? Well, it can be used in jewelry, it conducts electricity, it doesn't rust, so you can use it in electronics, you can use it as jewelry, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and so that's a gold secondary use case. What's Bitcoin's secondary use case? You could argue that you can mine it with computer software, right? You can mine it, but you can also mine Bitcoin Cash. And the main secondary use case of Bitcoin is going to be means of exchange. Okay, and without that, it can't be a very good store of value. Whereas Bitcoin Cash is focusing a lot more on the means of exchange, and Bitcoin Cash can possibly do both. And its secondary use case, it can fit that secondary use case besides store of value. Okay, so this is an important debate. And it's an important thing to realize that that's part of the duality of money, right? Neither is more important than the other, and you shouldn't sacrifice one too much at the detriment of the other. Because if you do it too much, then something else might take its place that is better at both. Okay, so understand that in your mind, and understand that this is part of the duality of money, and that something cannot be a store of value without being a means of exchange, and the means of exchange needs to be a store of value as well. So it goes both ways. Okay, means of exchange also needs to store value. The U.S. dollar still stores value, maybe not long term, but it stores value long enough to be a means of exchange. So both are true, and so you want to find currencies that are a good mix of both. Okay, And so this is the debate versus Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And one reason why I'm such a fan of Bitcoin Cash is because it's doing such a good job as a means of exchange. And I think it's doing such a good job of means of exchange that it's possible that it actually catches up to Bitcoin someday, even though Bitcoin's arguably a better store of value for now. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you ever want to contact me, lukepryor@protonmail.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about this concept. And I'll talk to you guys later. All right, bye.